huge amount of what we spend our time doing here at IceCube Property Finance is working with developers to get development finance. Development finance is one of the more complex types of finance. There are a huge amount of moving parts within both the company structures and the developments themselves, and they require a lot more work at the front end to make sure that the development finance goes through and completes, and as the developer you get your money as and when you need it. One of our key roles within that process is to make sure that we present the company, the borrower and the development in the best light possible. And that's something that we consider ourselves very good at, and something that's very important about picking a broker when you're looking for development finance. However, it is equally important that you as the borrower give us the information and the tools that we need to do that. And there's quite a long list of things that we need as the broker from you to help us to put together the proposal for your development strategy. Firstly, company structure and how the company presents. We need to understand exactly how the borrowing company is structured, who the shareholders are, who the directors are, why, who's put the money into the company, and if there's any complex structures, which are absolutely fine, why those structures exist. Always good to have an organogram. Company's house can tell us so much, but there's quite often lots hidden behind the scenes. It's important that that company's got good credit history. It may well be an SPV, which is fine, a new special purpose vehicle. It's also important that the individuals behind the company have got good credit history, or if they haven't, we need to understand that from day one and have an explanation of what's happened. Again, very normal for developers to have had projects go wrong in the past, particularly when the markets have been more difficult, but we need to understand that and we need to be able to position that correctly to the lender. One of the most important things in a development finance package is CV and experience of the developer. We need to know what you've built before, how you've built it, who you've used, which funders you've used, was it profitable, what was the gross development value of the project, what costs were incurred, what lessons were learned. Really very much a CV top to bottom of all the schemes that you've done. Again, in a perfect world, you've done 5 or 6 similar projects in the borrowing vehicle, but that very rarely happens. So what we need to understand is the broader picture. What have you done as an individual within other companies? What have the other individuals within your company done? And what have you all done together? And then we can piece together a CV as best as possible to show to the lender. Almost as important as the company structure is the development structure. So we need to understand in detail what your plans are for a development. Very simple, some of the basic stuff. How many properties? What are those properties? What do you expect them to sell for? What sizes are there? So we need a detailed plan around what the development looks like and a schedule of accommodation. But more importantly, we need all the cost plans. So we need to understand exactly what you're expecting to spend, start to finish on that development. In the early days, it might be very broad brush, almost back of a fag packet, and that's absolutely fine because we'll work with you to build that up. And I'm not suggesting that you need to have all this information at day one, but this is information that we'll need as we move through towards drawing down on a development finance facility. So the appraisal and the cash flows and the cost structures of the development are hugely important. And again, we can help you work on those, but we need to make sure that when it comes in front of a bank's monitoring surveyor or quantity surveyor, that all those numbers are in place and that we can support those numbers and back those numbers up. Equally important is your professional team. Who have you got working on the project for you? Who are your builders? If you're not a builder yourself, how are you structuring that? Is it on a fixed price contract? Who are your architects? Who are your M&E contractors? Who will you be insuring the property with? The entire list of people that you're working with, including your broker. It's important that that team's in place and we can talk about the skills of each individual member of that team. Planning permission is hugely important. You may have planning permission at day one, you may not. Again, please don't wait until you've got planning permission before you come and talk to us. We're happy to look at doing a lot of the work up front before planning permission has come through. Might be planning permission is very straightforward, but if there are complexities to that planning permission, again, it's best that we understand that and we can position that properly to the lender. It's also very important about exit strategy. We've heard us talk about exit strategy when we talk about bridging, but it's equally true of development finance. Are you looking to sell the properties or are you looking to retain them? If you're looking to sell them, have you had your GDVs, i.e. the prices of the units checked by a local agent? Have you had numerous agents look at them? How fast do they think the properties are going to sell? Are you planning to sell off plan or are you planning to wait until you've completed the units? So all these things affect the time in which you're going to take out a development loan and will affect the overall cost. If you're going to keep the units, again, have we looked at what that exit finance might look like. Are you looking at putting them onto buy-to-let mortgages? Are you looking at adding them to a portfolio? Or are you looking to just short-term refinance them to give you more time to sell the properties? And some of the more simple things are important as well, but quite often slow the project down. We will need ID from everyone involved in the project, so we'll need passports, driving licence and bank statements in the last 3 months. We'll need bank statements from the company. We'll need all the basic documentation you'd expect, but it's amazing sometimes how long that can take. So if we can get that up front, get that on file and ticked off, it really will speed the process up as we move forward. Source of funds is also hugely important. With all development loans, there'll be an element of equity put in by the borrower, by the developer. That may be 10%, maybe 20%, maybe 50%, depending on the structure of the development finance. But where that money comes from is hugely important, and it's important that we know day one. It's very rare that we can't structure it properly, but if we find out at the last minute that you've borrowed that money from a third party, then it's very difficult to retrofit a structuring process. If you tell us day one that that's how you plan on structuring it, that the money's coming from an investor or the money's coming from a third party, we can work out whether or not that third party is going to have an interest in the property. Are they going to want a second charge? Are they going to want a deed of priority with the senior lender? Lots of things that can be worked on, but we need to know up front how that'll be structured, and that is one thing that can really derail a development finance proposition at the last minute if that comes out of the woodwork and we're not expecting it and the lender's not expecting it. Essentially, in conclusion, all development finance projects are very similar. They require a lot of upfront planning, and we're happy to do that with you. And it's the sooner we do that, the better. So don't wait until you're ready to break ground. Come and see us as soon as possible. Give us a call, and we can walk you through what needs to be done, and we can pre-package a lot of this information so that when your planning permission comes through, when you're ready to move forward with the project, we've done 50% of the work already.